Welcome to a special episode of All Things Covered. I am Bryant McFadden, and usually I'm with my co-host Pat Peterson, but because this is a special show, Pat P will not be joining me for this episode. And here's why. We're going to react to the most recent NFL news. They just released the schedule for all 32 teams. So we're going to give our instant reaction to the schedule, but we also will emphasize gambling. Yes, this is the show for you. This episode will be devoted to earning you money. Making and earning you money. Because like myself, I love to gamble when it comes to NFL games. I love to put together nice little parlays. I might add a teaser here or there. And I need to make sure I have all the information that I need to be able to have a successful gambling year. So this is where we dedicate all the information that we will put together here on this show for you, the listener, the viewers, everybody who's watching us on YouTube. And if you like what you see tonight, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. Check out our most recent episode featuring Teddy Bridgewater. He had a lot to say. And if you haven't been living under a rock, he's making national news based on our conversation that he had with me and Pat Peterson. So this is a special episode, All Things Covered. And because we're talking numbers and because we're talking money, I had to reach out to a fellow friend, co-worker of mine with CBS. His nickname is the Wizard of Odds. Kenny White is joining me here on this show. You can find him KennyWhiteSports.com. You can find him on Twitter, Kenny Whitey Vegas on Twitter, K Whitey Vegas on Twitter. He's one of the best gambling experts you will find in our country. It's not just about football. Kenny is involved in everything, and he's so consistent and he's so accurate. So I had to make sure I get a guy that can provide quality sound information for you all to be able to cash in consistently throughout the season. Kenny, thank you for joining me here. First and foremost, how excited are you to finally see the schedule?
What a buzz, hey. Thanks for the introduction, B-Mac, and a pleasure to be here. The NFL, what a machine they are. It's just nonstop, the draft, and then we'll open up the schedule next week, and we'll reveal the first week, and then we'll reveal the entire season. It's just so much fun. The NFL is a year-round game, and it's everybody loves it. The best athletes in the world going head-to-head every week, and parity it's the most parity of any league, of any professional sports league in the entire world, and that's why it's so much fun.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, literally for me, leading up to tonight's event, it felt like Christmas. I was just waiting to get under the Christmas tree to open my gifts. And finally, when I saw the schedule released for all 32 teams, I was just opening gifts. I was so excited. And first and foremost for you, Kenny, being involved in the gambling aspect of football for such a long time, what are the first things you look at when you see the schedules?
Yeah, BMAC, for so many years, I was involved on the bookmaker side, making the betting line for over 30 years. We would have to make these opening totals on the fly as soon as the schedule came out. We had about an hour that most of our clients wanted them that fast. So we would look at things like to find out who played 3 games on the road in 3 straight weeks. It doesn't happen very often. This year, just twice, Cincinnati and Dallas. That's a big negative where we take off a half a win off their win total. We also try to find out who opens up with 2 home games, because you know how important it is. You go 2-0, you have about a 65% chance to make the playoffs. So we look at those. Indianapolis, Tampa, and Washington all start with 2 home games this year. And then we look to go against teams that start with 2 on the road, because you want to get off to a fast start. If you get off to an 0-2 start, it's an 11% chance to make the playoffs. And you're 0-20 the last 2 years. San Francisco 49ers fall in that category, but they have 2 easy games, at Detroit and at Philly. I think they can get a win, but the Cowboys open up 2 on the road, Minnesota 2 on the road, and Denver 2 on the road. So those are what we look at, you know, trying to take off a half or add a half a game to every team. And then you're always trying to figure out the public teams. Who's everybody talking about? That's a big part of this. Cleveland Browns, automatically, they're raised up a half a win because that's all everyone talks about, is how good the Browns will be this year.
And a unique thing about this show, viewers that are tuning in, checking us out on YouTube, you get the number perspective. and I give you the former player perspective. So we get an opportunity to combine the two to give you the most thorough information that you can find anywhere. So me personally, when you look at the schedule coming from a former player, initially you look at week 1, who we're playing, right? Because now you get an opportunity to start preparing. You have ample amount of time to be able to dissect who it is you're playing, the individuals, the total overall game plan, their scheme. And then you look at how good that team was last year, because Kenny just hit on some key points. Starting off 0-2, that's not a good start. And if you have an opportunity to have a week 1 opponent that was bad last year, you take that and you run with it, because now the likelihood of you starting off 1-0 is very, very likely based on how bad or poorly that team played last year. So that's a big time plus. And we're going to transition to the Minnesota Vikings. Why are we going to transition to the Minnesota Vikings? My co-host, Pat Peterson, All-Pro corner, future Hall of Famer. He plays for the Minnesota Vikings, but he can't be involved in this show because we're talking numbers. We're talking money. But we're going to highlight the Minnesota Vikings, their week 1 matchup. They travel to Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, right? We all believe he will be healthy, Kenny. And right now, when you look at that line, the Vikings, they're laying 3 points. The over-under is set at 48 right now. So, like I said, based on what we know, we all anticipate to see Joe Burrow healthy. One would say that team will be much improved, especially on the defensive side from what we saw last year. The same can be said for Minnesota. They were dealing with a lot of injuries on the defensive side on all 3 levels, and that led to inconsistent play. You get Kirk Cousins back. You get Dalvin Cook, who was a machine, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. That should be a very, very entertaining ball game. So when you look at that line right now, the focus, are you taking the total, or are you taking just a side?
I was looking at the total in the game, B-Mac, to go over, and I was going to ask you, wonder how much Patrick is going to be involved in the game plan, being an Arizona Cardinal and knowing that offense. I'm sure they're going to lean on him a little bit. But Cincinnati now in their 3rd year of this up-tempo offense with Cliff Kingsbury. I think they're going to be a very good offensive team. They lost a couple pieces on defense, and as you mentioned, Minnesota's defense was banged up just a little bit last year. They get healthy, they're going to be much better. I like the Vikings, loved them last year, except for that defense got banged up. But this one, I think, is going to be a very high-scoring game in week 1.
One thing I like about Minnesota, you're playing against a team that has a lot of young players playing impactful positions for Cincinnati, and not knowing exactly what you will see from Joe Burrow. The last time we saw Joe Burrow on the football field, he was getting carted off with that devastating knee injury that happened against Washington. And one would say some jitters might come to play for Joe Burrow in the first week of the season. So I don't know if the rhythm and the chemistry would be there. When you look at the total, I like where you're going there, Kenny, but I think that 3 points the Vikings are laying to Cincinnati might be the ideal route. And outside of that week 1 matchup, you look at the primetime games for Cincinnati. Week 8, Kenny, they have a Sunday night slate. The Dallas Cowboys, the Vikings are laying. They're giving a point to the Dallas Cowboys. Week 14, Thursday night matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're giving 2.5. That game is in Minnesota. Week 15 matchup, Monday Night Football versus the Chicago Bears. They're giving 3. And then when you look at week 17, Sunday night in Green Bay, they're giving 4.5. So right now, the odd makers are loving Minnesota. How are you feeling about the love the Minnesota Vikings are currently receiving? Granted, there's a lot of time left to go through before the season actually starts. But right now, the Vegas odd makers, they're loving the Vikings.
Yeah, B-Mac, I apologize. I looked at my notes and I had Arizona written there. They play Arizona in week 2. They don't play in week 1. So I'm looking at Arizona thinking this is big for Patrick Peterson going against his old team. I apologize. It is the Cincinnati Bengals in week 1. Bengals, I think Joe Burrow will be far better in year 2. We got to hope that he is on the field recovered from that ACL injury. But the Bengals are a team that I like to play over. They do like to throw the football higher than the average percentage of an NFL team. And that defense is very below average. So I think Kirk Cousins and company, Dalvin Cook, I still say is one of the top 5 running backs in the NFL.
Yes, sir.
Again, over 48 there, but I'll be over the next week as well when the Vikings travel to Phoenix to take on the Cardinals.
No question. And you better believe Pat Peterson going to be fired up about that game. And like you talk about the up-tempo offense from Arizona, that's a game I think everybody should target the over because there could be a lot of points put on the scoreboard. So right now, looking at where we see things right now with the Minnesota Vikings, one team I would like to highlight and definitely get your opinion on, the Green Bay Packers. I mean, right now, the uncertainty with their quarterback clearly is well documented, right? Not knowing exactly if Aaron Rodgers would be there. And it's safe to say the odd makers are now kind of leaning to the side of not knowing if Aaron Rodgers would be there because in the week 17 matchup between Minnesota, Green Bay, they actually given 4.5. So my question for you, when you look at the uncertainty with some of the lines, which games or which teams do you really value would you attack now? Because there's a lot of time between tonight and opening week for the NFL. So are there any teams that you kind of shine away from right now to kind of wait and see how things develop? Or there are some teams that you're definitely jumping on when it comes to the betting angle?
Yeah, there's a couple I like in week one right away. BMAC, the Thursday night game, I love Tampa Bay, and it's because of Tom Brady. You know they're going to be well prepared. The Cowboys coming off a 6-10 season. We don't know how healthy Dak's going to be. The offensive line is rebuilding, and that defense was 23rd in the NFL with a new defensive coordinator. So advantage everywhere to Tampa. I think they'll be fired up. The crowd will be fired up, and that's a low number. I really thought that game would come out 9.5 or 10 with Tampa Bay. You think about all the great Patriot teams. When they won a Super Bowl, they were almost double-digit favorites in the first week of the season because everybody knew how good they are. The others, I like the Steelers. Mike Tomlin and the organization, all they do is win. You're going to give them 6 points? They were 11-0 last year and then kind of fell apart. The running game fell apart. The running game will be far better. We know Ben still got it. He threw for 500 yards in a playoff game. That's just a lot of points. And then I'm going to play the Raiders. Monday Night Football at home, 4.5 points. I don't know if they win the game, but I think they'll be in it right down to the wire with Baltimore.
Let me follow up with you with the Cowboys and the Buccaneers. I'm right there with you. I love Tampa giving 6.5. Heck, I think I would still take Tampa if the line was 7, and here's why. The continuity and the chemistry clearly would be established this season. We didn't really see that to start the season off on both sides of the football because, granted, it was an abnormal offseason last year. But it will be more normalcy, to say the least, for guys to get out on the grass and work out together. So I think that definitely will help the chemistry on both sides of the football for Tampa. Not to mention returning all starters from last year. You don't usually see that, right? You don't usually see a championship team returning all key components from a year ago. And the same can be said for most of the coaches on the coaching staff. So that's a plus. Then the last time we saw Dak Prescott, he was getting carted off almost 11 months ago. The last time he had a meaningful snap. He's probably going to be rusty, Kenny. He's probably going to be rusty. We saw the issues on the offensive line last year. They're playing against a team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that do not allow a lot of positive yards on the ground game. So that's going to be a tough matchup for them. So me personally, I think we will see struggles from the Cowboys offense. Maybe rhythm struggles. I don't know defensively if they have enough to be able to slow down Tom Brady. And the thing that I like about Tom Brady when it comes to this matchup, I was able to participate in 2 matchups as a Super Bowl champ. Thursday night, the atmosphere is crazy. It's almost like you feel like you can't lose. And that's why you see so many championship teams win on Thursday night. You see so many championship teams cover on Thursday night. So that's one of my ideal locks for week 1. I love the Steelers and the Bills, but I side with the total. I think last year that total was around 40 or 41 points. I don't expect to see a lot of points, especially week 1. So I think that's the more comfortable, attractive line for me. When you look at some of the other outstanding week 1 ball games, I would love to get your opinion. I know our viewers would love to get your opinion as well about this matchup. The Cleveland Browns traveling to Kansas City. Right now, the Browns are getting 6. The over-under is at 53. What are your thoughts about that ball game, Kenny?
I think that's going to be another high-scoring affair. You know, the NFL is a passing league now, and They're throwing it almost 65% of the time. Patrick Mahomes, I think, will be great. We saw Baker Mayfield, and he was very, very good in the playoffs. Had a nice season. I think they just continue to get more weapons for him. Also, their head coach is an offensive guy. I love it over. Week 1, usually I'm on overs. Week 2, I'm usually on unders.
And why is that, Kenny?
Everybody's seen everybody on tape now after one game. And everybody, if you remember as a player, that first game, how'd you feel after the first week? Little beaten up, and it took a little bit more time, I think, to recover for week 2. Then after week 2, you're kind of used to it, I think.
Wow, that's quality sound insight coming from the numbers perspective, and it makes a lot of sense. I think when I look at that matchup, the anticipation and the expectations that Browns have, they're super high. I mean, you talked about the personnel, some of the weapons they've added to the offense around Baker Mayfield, adding Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, yes, he's been so inconsistent, but the thing about Jadeveon Clowney playing for the Browns, you don't necessarily need him to turn the light switch on. He just has to find the wall that has the light switch, because they got Myles Garrett on the opposite side, and he is the ultimate disruptor for their defense. So that defense, if they can put pressure on that, on Pat Mahomes with that revamped offensive line, that could be a very, very intriguing game. Remember, a year ago in the playoffs, they were a Daniel Sorensen no call away from really making things extremely sticky for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs ended up winning that ball game, but that no call led to, I would say, the opportunity for the Chiefs to win that ball game. So I would side with the Browns in that matchup, getting 6. I love their identity on both sides of the football, and they can run the football and put pressure on the quarterback and Pat Mahomes. They might have a chance. Looking at another highlighted game for week 1, Kenny, the Packers at the New Orleans Saints. Not knowing who the quarterback will be for the New Orleans Saints, the Saints are giving 2.5 to Green Bay. My question for you is, number one, which side are you going with? The Saints giving 2.5. The over-under is 51. And not knowing exactly the status of Aaron Rodgers, do you believe the unknown with Aaron Rodgers is leading to the Saints giving 2.5 as the favorite? Because I would say, not having Drew Brees week 1, if we know Aaron Rodgers will be in the lineup, I would think Green Bay will be the favorites. But clearly Vegas knows something, and they're going with the Saints and being the favorites.
Yeah, you're right on the money right there, B-Mac, because you're right. If we knew Aaron Rodgers was the starting quarterback for sure, Green Bay's got to be the favorite in this game. Yeah. So I was kind of surprised to see this number. We little shocked today seeing Green Bay pick up Blake Bortles. Why are they picking up Blake Bortles? I had no idea why they made that transaction. I think Jameis Winston will be the starting quarterback for the Saints. I think he's going to be the starter. They'll be good. The Saints are well coached. They're a good organization. They know how to win football games, but obviously they're going to be a drop-off with no Drew Brees. I'm going to say I'm taking the points with the Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers will be the quarterback. Yeah. I don't know how, there's no way. He was the best quarterback in the NFL last year. There's no way that you can get rid of this guy. You can't get enough reward for him. Maybe you do. Maybe you pull off like a Herschel Walker type trade and you get 10 players for him. If that was the case, then I guess I'd have to do it.
I'm right there with you. I believe Aaron Rodgers will be the starting quarterback for the Packers. So if you're telling me I could get 2.5 points with Aaron Rodgers as a starting quarterback week 1 against a Drew Brees less New Orleans Saints, I'll take the Packers. Now you're rolling the dice, because if the unthinkable happens, now you got to put together a whole nother line. You know what I mean? But I think Aaron Rodgers will be the starting quarterback, and because of that, I side with the Packers as well. Another interesting matchup happening right in your backyard. The Las Vegas Raiders, they're hosting the Baltimore Ravens. Right now, that line is in favor of the Ravens, laying 4.5 to the Raiders. The over-under is 51. What are you siding with on this ball game? The over-under or the overall point spread?
I'm looking at the Raiders in the game, B-Mac, and obviously first year with COVID, 0 fans attended a game here in Las Vegas. So this will be the first game fans ever attend. And the fans here in Vegas have actually learned how to root for their home team by going to the Golden Knight games. And they're really have know how to root. They're loud. And I think they'll be very, very loud in this building for the Raiders in game 1. I think that'll be a big advantage. Last year with no fans, and I always say home field advantage. is the fans and their intimidation on the referees to get a call or two. And also maybe, on the snap counts offensively, defensively, that is an advantage if it's very loud. So this will be one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL in week 1. I think that's a big advantage. I gave 3 points to the Raiders for that. And I like their team. I think they have enough weapons on offense. Their defense needed to improve, and they brought a lot of guys in on the draft on the defensive side. So I think they're going to be a little bit better on the defensive end. So it'll be a close game. Yep.
They better be better than what they were last year. I can tell you this much. It feels like, for me as a fan from afar, this is the first season the Raiders will be in Vegas, because yes, they played in Vegas last year, but no fans were there. Right? So you didn't really get the full effect of having a National Football League in your city. Now they're there. The fans will be there. They have the club in the end zone. You better believe that stadium will be rocking, Kenny. I think when I look at that game, the over-under is very, very attractive for me. And I mean the under instead of the over. And here's why I say that. Just knowing the recipe for both offenses, they love to run the football. We know how much the Baltimore Ravens love to run the football. Josh Jacobs, they're going to lean on the ground and pound attack for the Raiders as well. And Baltimore defensively, that's a sound, stout group. So I don't expect to see a lot of points. So I side with the under at 51, because I think both teams will utilize the ground game. We know Baltimore wants to throw the football a lot more, but that's not who they are as an offensive team. So I think that under is very, very attractive for me. When I look at some of the other games that might not be the highlighted big games, there's some intriguing money games that I would like to highlight as well. One game I would like to throw at you, Kenny. The Los Angeles Chargers traveling to Washington. Right now, the Chargers, they're giving 1 to Washington. The over-under is set at 44.5. I love the under, and I also love Washington. The reason why I love Washington, the coaching matchup. First-year coach in Staley going against a very, very experienced, proven guy in Riverboat Ron. Not to mention, you look at Riverboat Ron's record week 1 matchups. I think he's like 4-0, 5-0 ATS in week 1 matchups. He's been consistently good in covering in week 1 matchups. Not to mention his defense. Might be one of the best defensive units in the National Football League. They were a terror last year. I think they will be better. Not to mention some of the additions on the offensive end. Ryan Fitzmagic, he played some of his best football in the early part of the season. Week 1 is the early part of the season. I think he will have success against the Chargers offense. And it's basically a pick 'em. So, I mean, you might as well just take Washington money line wise, because they're only getting 1 point. Add a little more bang for your buck. Take Washington money line, because I think Washington will cover, and I think they will outright beat the Chargers.
Hey, B-Mac, I agree with every point you're making. Washington's defense is the best unit on the field in this game. Justin Herbert, sophomore jinx. We see it a lot. They've now more film on him and know how to defend him. And if a team's going to be able to put pressure on him, it's going to be the Washington Redskins. Yeah, right now you can get plus 105 at William Hill on the money line with the Washington Redskins. And You know what? Ron Rivera is one of my favorite coaches. I put him up there in one of the guys that you can trust week in and week out.
Wow. So you said plus 105 right now, money line. And there's I know we're talking the odds right now in the month of May, but there's a good chance this could flop. This could flop in favor of Washington. So if you really feel good about this line, you might want to take Washington right now, because I wouldn't be surprised to see in the month of July or August, Washington could become the favorites for this week 1 matchup. And that's why this is so intriguing right now to start attacking and putting together some of your favorite parlays right now, because we could see some changes in some of the line movement and some of the lines with some of these games. So that's an intriguing one as well. And another game I like to highlight, it could be the battle of the little sisters of the poor, to say the least, right? You got Jacksonville traveling to Houston. Jacksonville, they're giving 2.5. The over-under is 45.5. Me personally, a rookie quarterback playing against we don't know who the quarterback will be for Houston. So I got to jump at the over-under, taking the under. 45.5, most rookie quarterbacks tend to struggle to some degree in week 1 matchups. And Houston, I mean, if you got Tyrod Taylor, he has experience, but you don't expect to see an explosion of points coming from a Tyrod Taylor offense. So I think the under is the ideal line when you look at that matchup. Kenny, how you feeling about the Texans and the Jaguars?
Yeah, I can agree with you there, B-Mac, just the fact that I think Urban Meyer will be very conservative early on. He's not going to put Trevor Lawrence in a situation to fail. He's going to want to succeed with him. David Culley takes over for Tennessee. He is an offensive guy, but we don't know what we're going to see out of Deshaun Watson, if we're going to see him or not. I have no idea if he's going to be there. He's not happy with the organization, so that's a big question mark as well. If Deshaun Watson plays, I'm going to take 3 points with the Texans. I think he's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL.
I agree. Yeah.
As long as you give that guy time to throw, he's as good as anybody. But he's running for his life the last 2 years. That's a big problem, though.
Yeah, that's the wild card with that ball game. Legally not knowing exactly what will happen with Deshaun Watson, right? So right now, I think it's safe to say the odd makers out in Vegas, they're addressing this game as if Deshaun is not playing. That's why we see Jacksonville, the favorites in this ball game, given 2.5. So me personally, if you don't know, we don't know exactly what will happen. Maybe the best, most comfortable thing to do would be to attack the over-under instead of a particular side, because I'm right there with you, Kenny. If Deshaun Watson is able to play, right, if he's cleared of all these allegations and he's come to terms and wanting to play for the organization, I think this line would change dramatically in favor of the Texans being the dogs instead of the underdogs. Another game that might not be entertaining for some people, you have the Jets traveling to Carolina. Basically the revenge game for Sam Darnold. Right now, the Panthers are giving the New York Jets 4 points. The over-under is 43. When I see that game, it's almost like they're telling you, begging you to take the under. And the reason why I'm okay in taking the under, first-year quarterback and Zach Wilson, a lot of new pieces around him, an offense that was bad last year, playing against a team that has a high ceiling on the defensive side. I love their young pieces they have on the defensive side with Carolina. They have a new quarterback in Sam Darnold. Christian McCaffrey will be back in uniform, but I don't expect to see an explosion of points from either offense. I think both defenses will be pretty good. So for me, I love the under in that ball game. How you feel about that matchup, Kenny?
Right
the
on,
Jets at the Carolina.
Yeah, I have the Jets offense right now dead last in the NFL, number 32. It's going to be a work in progress with a rookie quarterback and a very below average offensive line. But their defense showed signs the last couple of years of being pretty good, and Carolina the same way. They're breaking in a new quarterback. The continuity, is it going to be there? So there are a lot of question marks, I think, on both offenses, where I don't think there's any question marks on the defense. I think the defenses are both right around average or slightly above average. So it's advantage defense for me. I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, those are the games that you got to be mindful when you talk about young quarterbacks, right? First-year quarterbacks or quarterbacks that are playing in quarterbacks that are playing in a new organization. It may take some time, but I think I lean with that under, especially not knowing exactly what we will see from both offenses. Some other notable games on the first week of the NFL season. You got the Seahawks at the Colts. The Colts are laying 2.5. That over-under is 52. You have the Cardinals at the Titans. The Titans are laying 2.5. That over-under is at 51. You have Miami traveling to New England. The Patriots right now giving 2. Depending on where you're shopping, you might see it at 1.5. That over-under is at 45.5. You have the Broncos laying 1 point to the New York Giants. That over-under is at 42.5. And Chicago at the Rams. The Rams are given 7 points. That over-under is 45. 7 is a large number. I mean, I'm seeing 49ers giving 7.5 to Detroit. I'm not surprised, but Chicago made the playoffs last year. And I think, many people feel like the Rams, especially with the Rams having Matthew Stafford, Kenny, that could be a team that could have championship aspirations. We know how good their defense is. But when I see that line, usually I run away from 7 points, but not knowing exactly who would be the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Will it be Andy Dalton or Justin Fields? on the road. SoFi Stadium will be filled to capacity. I think I'm willing to lay the 7 points going to Chicago in the hopes of seeing the Rams cover that 7. How you feel about that matchup?
I like it under, B-Mac. The Rams defense still one of the top in the NFL. And the Bears as well. You mentioned the quarterback situation. The Bears, I think, may have gone backwards. And the Detroit Lions, Stafford, they don't play a lot of minutes in preseason games. That's just the way Sean McVay does it. So I don't think Stafford's going to get a lot of time with his first team unit in game situation. And then he's got to face that Bear defense in game 1. I don't see a lot of points being scored in that game. I think it's a nice underplay.
No doubt. Yeah. So those are the week 1 matchups. All things covered. Special schedule release reaction show attacking the money side for you first-time viewers checking us out. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. Check out our latest episode, All Things Covered. Pat Peterson, Bryant McFadden with Teddy Bridgewater, talking about his Panther days, talking about the upcoming season with the Denver Broncos. Please, you won't be disappointed. Make sure you check that out. Before we let you guys go, we have some more information to give to you guys when it comes to earning money. Win totals. A few teams I would like to highlight when it comes to the win totals. Tampa, Cleveland, Minnesota, Pittsburgh. Let's start with the Super Bowl champions and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right now, their win total is set at 11.5. Now, viewers, remember, the NFL added 1 extra game. So it's not 16 ball games anymore. It's 17. So you have an extra game to get to that win total number. So I think that's a huge play, and that's something that you have to remember when you're putting together these win total parlays or these win totals regarding one team. Tampa right now, 11.5. I think that's a bit disrespectful. I know I'm surprised it's not 12, but it's 11.5 right now. And if you look at their schedule, I mean, the league really did them some real did them a favor. They don't have a scary schedule at all. I mean, I think their first 2 or 3 ball games, 4 ball games, they have home games. You know what I mean? So that's a plus. So me personally, I jump at the over with the win total with Tampa, 11.5. Kenny, how you feel about the win total with the Buccaneers?
Well, B-Mac, the one thing I talked about early in the show is parity in the NFL is greater than any other league there possibly is on this planet. And it shows in the win totals over the last 25 years, teams that are scheduled or predicted to win 10 or more games only go over 44% of the time. 53% they go under and 3% they tie. So I did make Tampa. I think they could win 12.5 or 13 games. That's my number. But I can't bet it under just the fact that reason. And Tom Brady, we know he's getting up there in age. If Tom Brady goes out with an injury, there's no chance.
Yeah,
there's no
chance.
So that's why these big numbers, professional bettors will not bet over them because of the injury factor. They'd rather try to find a spot where they can bet under. Yep. And again, the same thing goes in this NFL, that one of the best win total percentages is teams that fit in the 6 to 7.5 range. So they're right there about an average team. And this is over the last 25 years.
Kenny, real quick, why is that? You said the best win total, you said 6 or 8? Well,
over time, teams that are predicted to win between 6 and 7.5 games. Okay, they have gone over 56% of the time over the last 20 years, over 100 sample size. So it's such a league of parity. 8 was that magic number that teams would gravitate to, and these under and overs are made from what people saw last year. 85% of the formula on a win total is what that team won last year. So this is a new year, and teams get better and teams get worse. So I'm looking to bet under on the high win totals and bet over on the lower win totals.
The thing about their schedule, right? Week 1, they have Dallas at home. Then they get Atlanta at home. They travel to LA. They travel to New England. And here's where it gets very, very interesting for Tampa. Week 5, they have Miami. Week 6, they got Philly. Week 7, they have Chicago. Week 8, they have the Saints. 10 and 11, they have Washington and the Giants. So by week 12, they're pretty much, I mean, they had some easy, I don't want to say easy games, but all winnable games between week 5 and week 8. And who's to say what we will see from the New England Patriots by week 4? You know what I mean? So the first 2 ball games clearly are winnable ball games. You know, week 1, week 2, and then you travel out to LA. But when you look at that week 5 matchups, the week 5 matchups between Miami, Philly, Bears, and Saints, they would be the favorites. And it would be safe. It's safe to say they would be favorites in all the games lead up to their bye in week 9. So if they can get off to an early start with that extra ball game, remember 17 ball games instead of 16. That would be something to monitor when you look at the over/under. The next
if you can guarantee me Tom Brady starts at least 15 games, I'll take it over.
Yeah. Oh, I'm right. I think we all would take over if you know Tom Brady will be starting. But one thing about Captain America and Tom Brady, you know, durability has never been a concern for him. You know, he's always done the right things and with his body and making sure he's where he needs to be. So that hasn't really been a concern for him. But I can tell you this much, he will be motivated. And because of his motivation, the entire team will be motivated. So I don't think many people may feel like they might get complacent. That's not who Tom Brady is. He's still playing because he's still motivated. He's playing the game like he's never won one championship, and he has 6. So that motivation will be there at an all-time high, and you better believe they will continue to be consistent. The next team I would like to highlight when you look at their win total is the Cleveland Browns. Right, Kenny? So right now, Vegas has their win total at 10. And this is a team that has so much hype coming into this season. Deserving so, they had a very, very successful season. When you look at that win total, and I'll read the teams off. To start off, they travel to Kansas City. Then they have Houston, Chicago, Minnesota, the Chargers, Arizona, Denver, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, the Patriots, Detroit, Baltimore again, Vegas, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. Remember, it's 17 games, viewers. Do you believe the Browns can get to 10, get over 10, or won't reach 10, Kenny?
They got a really good football team. I have the Steelers rated higher than the Cleveland Browns. I think they're the best team in the division, and then I have Baltimore right there. So I've got Cleveland the third best team in this division. That schedule you rattled off seemed like it was kind of a difficult schedule to me. The one thing that I like to bet against in sports, and it happens in all sports, the more I see somebody on commercials, the more I like to bet against that guy or that person. And it just works out that way. Conor McGregor was on every commercial you could possibly see this last year. He lost his last MMA match as a big favorite. I've seen it in all sports. Even Aaron Rodgers does a lot of commercials. He didn't get it done last year. Patrick Mahomes has done more commercials. He didn't get it done last year. You know, they did well. They won a lot of games. They just didn't win a championship. But I do look at that Baker Mayfield may be doing a few too many commercials than really focusing on what his job is. You don't see Tom Brady doing all those commercials.
Yeah. And one thing you have to monitor when it comes to betting win totals, divisional matchups, right? If there's a team that's in a very, very, could be a subpar division, you have to like their chances of being able to eclipse the win total. The AFC North is going to be a sticky division. You got to play Baltimore twice. You talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers and Cincinnati. That Bengals team, if they're healthy, won't be an easy out. That's a very, very intriguing number. 10, not 10.5, but 10. You know what I mean? So one would think, based on how well they played last year, how consistent it was having a football identity on both sides of the ball, they should be able to get to 11. I mean, heck, if they lose 6 games, that's 11-6. That's doable, right? I mean, that I don't know. I'm staying away from that Cleveland win total right now because that division could be tough, could be very, very tough. The next team will
Pittsburgh and Baltimore are so good. They're both that good again. And then Cincinnati, you mentioned, there's the interstate rivalry game that the Bengals are going to be up for both games no matter what the records are. So yeah, they were 11-5 last year. They did get over their win total. I think that was the first time they've been over their win total, maybe 8 or 9 years. Wow. They've really been a great under team. So I'm staying away from it. All the money, early money from the professionals, has been on the Browns to win the AFC, to win the Super Bowl, and to go over. I think they went over 9.5 early, and they've been some going over 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I want to stay away from that game. I mean, from that win total with the Browns, because that division is going to be a very, very sticky division. The next team we like to highlight win total wise, the Minnesota Vikings, Patrick Peterson's new team. Their win total is set at 8.5. I think the over is minus 150. So, pretty good odds when it comes to that standpoint. 8.5 is the win total. Their first 4 ball games, Kenny, they have Cincy, Arizona, Seattle, Cleveland. Their first 4 ball games. 8.5 seems to be a doable number when it comes to the over. I think a lot of this has to do with not knowing what will happen with Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers is not playing for Green Bay, this is a guarantee. If Minnesota is healthy, I think they instantly become the best team in the division if there is no Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. But if A-Rod is there, of course, the Packers would be and should be the favorites to come out of the black and blue division in the NFC North. But right now, knowing what we know and assuming that Aaron Rodgers will be the starting quarterback for Green Bay, where are you leaning? Over or under this 8.5?
I'm a big Mike Zimmer fan, a big Kubiak fan, and I think I think his team will be healthy. Obviously, you never can predict that, but you get a guy like Danielle Hunter back, and you bring in a Patrick Peterson. You got 2 All-Pros and a couple others on that roster that are that good. I think Minnesota's defense will be far better this year. And then you just lean on Dalvin Cook, and you're going to win a lot of football games. So, yeah, this is one team that I do like over. I think there's going to be a big regression back to the mean. I think this is a 10-11 win football team.
They should be. This should be a playoff team. If they healthy on both sides of the ball, like you said, Dalvin Cook's one of the best running backs in the game. Justin Jefferson is emerging to be one of the best pass catchers in the game, young, talented pass catchers. Adam Thielen is now kind of going to that number 2 pass catcher in the offense, and I think he's okay with that because Justin Jefferson is that type of talent. And all Kirk Cousins got to do, manage the system. Just don't blow it up. Just play good, sound football, clean football. They should be okay, and I think he will be able to do that. So I like the over/under. You got to get 9, right? 9 wins in 17 games. That should be more than doable for Zim and his staff. So I like that. That over/under going over for the Vikings. The last team I'd like to highlight is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers over/under is set at 9 wins. 9 wins. First matchup, the first 4 ball games for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the reason why I highlight the first 4 ball games, because that can generate a fast start into getting to whatever that over/under number is. The first 4 ball games, you have Buffalo, the Raiders, Cincinnati, Green Bay. I mean, they could either, me personally, Kenny, that first month of the season, basically month leading into October, could either make or break the Pittsburgh Steelers season, in my opinion. You got Buffalo, Raiders, Cincy, Green Bay. When you look at the 9 wins, if they're healthy, Big Ben is healthy, how do you feel about that win total?
Yeah, as I already said, B-Mac, and not just because I'm on the show with you. You know I was a big Steeler fan last year. I had them rated so high. And I'm only fans of teams that I have rated very high. I really don't play favorites. I play favorites of teams who cover point spreads. Those are my favorite football teams, and the Steelers are one of those. Mike Tomlin is one of my favorite coaches. I think he just does a tremendous job. And the Steelers organizations win in all sports, good organizations, and bad organizations lose. They're so consistent year in and year out. And Pittsburgh's one of those consistent teams that wins. I think they're going to be very unhappy last year starting 11-0 and then kind of falling apart. I think the offensive line will be healthier. I think they'll be better. They've made some improvements. The defense is still great, and Big Ben is still playing at above average level. So, yeah, this is, I think, an 11-12 win football team. And out of that first 6 games, I think they can win 4 of them. And if Aaron Rodgers isn't on Green Bay, I think they win 5 of them.
Yeah, and the NFL basically said when they came out and analyzed the schedules for all teams, voted the Pittsburgh Steelers having one of the more difficult schedules in the National Football League. But the first 4 ball games, if they can get up to a fast start, 3-1. We saw how well they started last year. Remember, they were 11-0 at one point in the season. So that would be huge for that win total being able to surpass 9 wins. And I think it's definitely doable. And not to mention, there's an extra ball game for all teams this season. So that plays a big part when you're taking a team in achieving the over when you have that extra ball game. When you look at all these matchups that we highlighted, do you have a favorite? Is there a favorite bet for you, Kenny, when it comes to some of the games that we highlighted in week one, or just in totality, some of the win totals that we highlighted?
Yeah, I'm going to give you two we didn't highlight because they were two of my better plays. The Jets under 6 and the Eagles under 7. And I told you before, those type of numbers are good over bets, but these are two teams with new coaches, new quarterbacks, a lot of unknowns for both teams. So I like those both under. The games we talk about, the Buccaneers, get it now because I think this game will close 9.5 or 10. It's going to be an avalanche of Buccaneer money, especially, if Zeke isn't healthy and can't play. Oh, my goodness, the game will be 13. So there's only one way this line can go is up. The other one I really like is I like the Patriots. I really, Bill Belichick, he's still one of the best. They had a lot of guys opt out last year. They were rebuilding on the fly. They had to bring a quarterback in Cam Newton that I like that just, was new to the offense. They didn't know what they wanted to do with him. I think he'll be far better in year 2, and I think the defense will be way better. And I'm not sure if Tua's really ready yet. The numbers he threw up last year weren't great. So I think the Patriots win in week 1 over Miami.
I love that game as well. I don't believe in Tua just yet. That's a bad matchup with all the new pieces the Patriots added to the defensive side. This has to be a revenge season for Bill Belichick and his squad. So that's a very, very attractive line for me with the Pats hosting the Miami Dolphins. I mean, I'm excited. There's so many different routes you can go. What I like to do is maybe 3-team parlay, 4-team parlay. I like to mix and mingle, but this is going to be an entertaining season. Number 1, we have football right around the corner. Number 2, fans will be in the stadium. And number 3, it's an opportunity to earn a lot of money. I hope you all enjoy this show. I hope you learned a few things. I hope you wrote down a few notes as well. Definitely something that we would like to continue to do in the near future. Football is here. It feels like it's here. I know we are some months away, but it's time to start putting some of these parlays together. All things covered. Patrick Peterson, Bryant McFadden. This special schedule release reaction show highlighting the numbers. Kenny White, the Wizard of Odds, joining me here from Vegas, one of the best numbers guys in the country, gave some sound information. Hopefully you guys learned a lot, and hopefully you guys will make a lot of money. That's what we're here to do. Put knowledge in your mind, money in your pocket, and hopefully we're able to do that. Until next time, make sure you subscribe to our show, All Things Covered YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast, All Things Covered, as well. Anywhere where podcasts are found near you, on your phone, on your tablets. Check us out. Leave us a 5-star rating. Hope you enjoyed the show. Go get paid.